Hello, this is Shaheedah Hill of Maximum One Realty Atlanta, and this is Getting Real About Real Estate. Tonight, we are talking about earnest money. Earnest money is the amount of money when you're buying a home that you put up as consideration and to show the buyer that you're serious about purchasing their property. So earnest money varies in amount, but generally it's between about $1,000 to maybe $5,000 to $7,000 on the higher end. It really varies based on the price of the house. So the price of the house is going to determine how much earnest money is usually requested by the seller. Now, all things are negotiable, so the earnest money is negotiable, but generally you want to put a good amount to show the seller that you are a strong buyer and serious about buying their house. So the earnest money is submitted with your contract. So when you make the contract or put in the offer for to purchase, you would put that earnest money amount and write that check to your real estate company, your agent's real estate company, or the other agent's real estate company. And what happens is that check is held in escrow, and you'll have an opportunity, something called the due diligence period. And I'll go into that in more detail. But basically, after you put a contract and the contract is negotiated, your agent will make sure that you have time to inspect the property, to look at the property again, to research the neighborhood before that contract is finalized. Now, during that time, the earnest money is held in escrow. So if you change your mind during that due diligence period, you decide that you're not going to buy that house, then you get your earnest money back. However, if you decide after that period, when you can do inspection to decide whether or not you want to buy the property, once that period is over, then that earnest money can be kept by the seller if you then back out of the deal. So if you decide say the due diligence period for you to do your inspections and that sort of thing is 10 days, and you decide, and you went through the 10 days, you've negotiated any additional things that you want with the house, and then after the 10 day, maybe on the 14th day, you decide, I don't want that house anymore, I changed my mind, then that seller is subject to get that earnest money, depending on some other things in the contract, like finance contingencies. But if you just pretty much change your mind after the due diligence period and it's not subject to any other contingency, because there are other contingencies like an appraisal contingency, if the house doesn't appraise for the sales price, or if the other contingency, if you can't get financing, then you also can get out of the contract and get your earnest money back in most cases. But in general, if you just say, I don't want the house as a buyer, then that seller, because they've taken their house, usually after the due diligence period, they've taken their house off the market. They may have missed other buyers that might have been interested in that property. So you've kind of put them behind in the buying process or the selling process. So that's their damages, that earnest money. So on the seller side, so when I'm representing sellers, of course, we want the most earnest money possible, because they've amended some laws that basically it's very hard to sue the buyer for specific performance. So say you have the contract you're doing and the buyer still changes their mind. In the past, you could sue the buyer for all sorts of things and any of the fees that came with them canceling the contract. But now that's very difficult. So the most you're usually going to get is that buyer's earnest money. So you want on the seller side as much earnest money as possible. So do you want to make sure if this buyer backs out of the deal, you're still made whole, be it that it's a mortgage payment because you weren't planning on staying an additional month. You want to make sure it's enough money that you feel if they back out, that money will hold me over until I can get another buyer to buy the property. So it's really upfront damages if the buyer changes their mind after that due diligence period. So that's what earnest money is, and that's why the seller is going to want as much earnest money as possible. Now, when you're the buyer, of course, you want to give at least not that much earnest money, because just in case you get out of it, you don't want to lose all of your money. And there are legitimate reasons that outside of due diligence, you just cannot, you can no longer purchase the property. You could get divorced in that amount of time. Something could happen after the due diligence period and before you close that will cause you not to purchase that property. So you want to make sure that you're not going to be out as much money, and at the same time make sure you have a competitive offer. So when you're putting in that offer, there might be other offers that are offering maybe the same amount as far as the price of the house, but another one is offering more earnest money, so that the seller may see that as a more determined buyer, more serious buyer for their property. So it's very important on both sides to make sure that the earnest money that you have negotiated is sufficient for the seller and sufficient for the buyer, an amount that the buyer is comfortable with, just in case they have to get out of their contract after due diligence. So if you have any questions about real estate, any questions about earnest money, the buying or selling process, or if you're ready to buy or list your home, go ahead and give me a call. You can message me on Facebook or YouTube, or you can call me at 404-395-2621. Again, that's 404-395-2621. Thank you so much for watching Getting Real About Real Estate. This is Shaheedah Hill with Maximum One Realty Atlanta. Excellence in buyer, seller, and community service. Thank you.